Hello, everybody. This is the Dr. Ardis Show. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Ardis, and with hanging out with one of the coolest people on the planet. You recognize her. She's on the screen. This is Dr. Christiana Northrup. Dr. Christiana Northrup, how are you? Say hi to the audience.
I'm great, and I love seeing the audience. This is very good.
Yeah, very, very excited to spend some time with you today. We're going to talk about a topic that affects a whole lot of women at some point in their life, most likely, especially in industrialized nations. I actually did research studies years ago that underdeveloped countries and those who don't eat the way we do, they actually transition through this period of their life, typically without symptoms. But man, here in America and around the world, in our industrialized nations, it is massively a problem for millions and millions of women.
Yep.
And this is called menopause. So we're going to talk about menopause. This whole show is about menopause, and I brought on the expert on menopause. Why? Because I'm never going to have menopause, I hope. I'm not planning on transitioning. And even if I do, I'm not really sure that's how this whole thing works. So this might apply to all the women around the world who will at some point in their life change hormonally and go through a period we now call menopause. You have pre-menopause periods, menopause periods, post-menopause. I have a whole bunch of questions because I'm a dude, I'm a guy, and I don't know a lot about menopause. So I'm going to ask the health expert of multiple New York Times bestseller books, also was a practitioner who treated women going through these periods. Okay, she's an OBGYN. She specializes in hormones. She watches this stuff. She's written books on it. Hold up your book all about menopause. Oh, my goodness, look at this. And show how thick it is. Good. I think she might know some stuff. She wrote every word in that thing. All right, how many references are in there, by the way, to scientific papers and literature? What do you think?
Thousands. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. Yeah. And the other thing to know, they disappear a lot of the good stuff. They've done that over the past 10 years. There's a lot of information that just is no longer on the internet. Like, for instance, I was trying to find a reference to Tylenol causing kidney failure, which is very common. Everyone knew that. I go back and Google it. No, it's not there. You have to actually dig now. Used to be, it was right up there. Not anymore. So we've seen the takeover of the information. That's why it's good to have some hard copies of stuff. I bought an encyclopedia from 1956 so I could check up on them.
All right, that's awesome. All right, so to piggyback your narrative about them changing stuff digitally online on the internet, I just want you to know, I actually believe a huge part of digitizing most of all published media and print over the years and converting it from books to Kindle versions, digital versions, all that stuff. I totally believe it's so they can easily go in and manipulate and change and alter history.
Yes.
And delete information so you cannot find it, and create very easily through a digital platform as they can change it and alter it one day after another, change the entire beliefs and knowledge in the society. And I think they've been working at doing this for a long time. So I want to show you something. Okay. It's exciting. Okay. I've got the date on this. Let's see if you can see it. You see the date?
1771. Nice.
Right. Here's a book from 1771. I think that predates the internet and Google. I think.
Yep.
Here we go. Here's the next one. Now, I have 30 of these, by the way.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Look at this one. Look at the date on this one. Can you see it?
1811. Wow.
1811. I have ones between that date, 1811, and this one, but check out this one.
1880.
1880. All right.
Oh, I'm glad you got these. This is important.
All right. So I want to explain something to you real quick before we dive into this menopause thing. I decided because there are certain words that the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industrial complex likes to use. Dr. Christiana Northrup, if I asked you what's their preference language they force all of us to learn for the first year of chiropractic school, dental school, medical school, acupuncture school, what do they make us learn as a language to understand prefixes, suffixes before we enter our health professionals as a health professional license to do so? What's the language? The pharmaceutical industry, the medical textbooks all want you to learn to be able to speak a different language to your patients in the future. What's that language?
Jargon.
It's jargon. It's primarily Latin, unless you want to correct me.
No, Latin is good. It's good.
Latin is it. All right. So the majority of your medical terminology, we all are forced to learn, like the word arthritis. When we were growing up, we're like, Mom, my joint hurts. That's what you said. And then Christiana, after telling her mom her joint hurts for years, after she kept stubbing her toes or fingers playing sports, whatever, then she goes to medical school and they force her to learn a new word for joint pain. And they say, okay, great. You're no longer going to say joint pain to your patients. Joint pain, we're going to tell you what it is in Latin.
It's an arthralgia.
We're going to call it arthralgia or arthritis. And so this is what you're going to say to your patients so that they think you're smarter than them. You're going to say everything to them in Latin that they say to you in English. All right. So I decided I was going to go buy a whole bunch of, I'm not joking, I have now 30 Latin to English dictionaries. That's what these are.
Oh, this is so good. Now, see, everyone listening, Brian, you can't get any deeper dive than this guy. By the way, in OBGYN, what we have is, did you ever see that thing where we have a flag? Okay, so, we have the territory of a woman's body. So we have Skene's glands from some guy named Skene. We've got fallopian tubes from Luigi Fallopi, some Italian way back. We've got Bartholin's glands, Montgomery's tubercles around your breast. So, we have whatever dude discovered it. You're living with it. And by the way, in Latin, I think the word vagina means sheath for a sword.
What? I'm going to have to look that up. In fact, it will be in my dictionary, just so you know. All right, so this is going to be quite fun, but I want you to know, Christiana, you're going to hear it here first, only because you brought up the fact that they're censoring stuff and you have to go dig farther for information that used to be commonly and easily found on the internet in searches or common searches like Tylenol, menopause, or whatever. I just want you to know, I'm about to explode 30 Latin to English dictionaries that cover a 254-year span, including up till 2025. I'm not joking. And I actually am going to show the entire world. I've already done the interviews and done the pictures that we're going to be sending out now to the world. Watch this go viral. Do you know that since 1771, this very first book, and every single book between now and 1771 for 254 years, people, the word virus is a Latin word. And the word virus has the same definition in every single Latin to English dictionary. It's the same definition in all of them. Do you know where it's not the same? On the internet.
Right.
When you look up Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, the American Medical Association, they give you a different definition than what I'm about to tell you in here. And when you look up the Latin word virus, for 254 years, Dr. Christiana Northrup, I'm going to show the whole world and all these social media viral clips I'm building right now as I build out these slides to show all this. Every single one of them up until today, 2025, reads the exact same way. The Latin word virus, which is a Latin historical word. It never existed before Latin. It is a Latin word. Your doctors speak Latin. They're taught to speak Latin to you. The word virus is a Latin word, and its English translation is this. In every single book, it means parasite. Poison. The word poison.
Yep.
Comma, especially of snake's venom.
Ooh, cool.
And if it doesn't read that way, when you get into the 1800s, they read poison, comma, venom. So, Christiana Northrup, when everybody's out there talking about germ theory, terrain theory, do viruses exist? I just have to ask you, if a virus by definition is either a poison or a venom, I like to ask you, do poisons and venoms exist, Dr. Northrup?
Of course they do.
So do viruses exist?
Yes, but they're poisons or venom.
And then my next question is this. Okay, I just got to ask this. I'm going to do this in a whole bunch of interviews. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
On other people's platforms. It's going to be quite fun.
Yeah.
Christiana Northrup, my question for you is this.
Yeah.
If viruses for 254 years, it's known, is only a poison or a venom, I'd like to ask you a question. How then do they create viral seasons annually? Like the flu virus season and the common cold virus season. If these terms of virus is actually a poison or venom, how do they create then every year cyclically seasons of viruses?
It's just because those are times when the vitamin D goes down and you're much more susceptible to whatever poison is in the air or water or your food that they're poisonous with.
Yep. So let's just rename these. Ready? The influenza poison or venom season,
Yeah, that's good.
or the
Just like, you
common
know what?
cold poison or venom
Mhm.
season.
That's right.
Interesting.
Dr. Sherry Tenpenny came up with a good one, and it is the.
So let's dive into menopause. That was just fun. I cannot wait to show you all these because I can't wait
I
to bring
love
up
it.
can't wait to bring up a whole bunch of MDs, including I'll go ahead and call you out. Tom Cowan, Andrew Kaufman. I invite you to tell me what you believe a virus is again. And then I want you to read the definitions for the last 250 years. And if you think you know more than 250-year-old printed books in the language of Latin, that's exciting. But you continue to say viruses don't exist. The venom narrative by Dr. Ardis is ridiculous. Oh, yeah? You might want to learn what the definition is of the word virus. I'll show you the books. It'll be exciting. All right, let's dive in.
Okay.
Let's dive into menopause, something way more exciting than venom and viruses.
It is actually. It is a very exciting time. If women understood what was really going on, they wouldn't be afraid.
Exactly right. All right, so I have a series of questions. I just want you to answer them.
Okay.
Don't go off too far into a tangent,
Okay.
but if there's awesome info here and just little touching points you think are significant,
Yep.
I would like you to just give those, and then we'll move to the next question because I have a whole bunch of questions here. Ready?
Okay, good. Let's go.
Number one, expert on menopause, Dr. Christiana Northrup. What is menopause?
The final menstrual period. That's it.
Awesome. Great. All right. So, what are the symptoms, Dr. Christiana Northrup extraordinaire? What are the symptoms, some, of menopause?
Well, it's perimenopause, which is a 6 to 13-year period where the ovaries change their function a bit.
Okay.
And it can start anywhere from, 38 to 60. And so what happens is you're getting skipping ovulations. So you have estrogen dominance. And in the face of too many carbs and the way people eat and too much insulin, that leads to hot flashes, night sweats, headaches, sleeplessness, dry eyes, dry vagina, mood swings, irritability, and all of it is in service to the fact that your soul is saying to you, look, there's more for you to do than fold the towels and make everyone else happy. So that's why women get bitchy. Something is coming up that they didn't deal with in adolescence. So menopause is adolescence in reverse. You can have 100 symptoms, kind of crawling skin, all kinds of things. But the most important thing to know, this is a crossroads, grow or die. It's that simple. Now this is why they tell you, if you have health insurance, whatever, you got to get your first mammogram here and your first colonoscopy, and you better get your lipid profile. And they make people believe that menopause is the beginning of the end. It's what I call planned decrepitude. That's how they sell it.
That's a great definition. All right. So can you explain? I've never had it, maybe because I haven't read a book about menopause to try to help myself, but I love this connection to adolescent issues that haven't actually been resolved. It's like in reverse. So here we go. Here comes some trauma. Here comes some stuff that's going to come back and resurface, and you're going to have to deal with it.
That's it. So I've had many, many women who remembered sexual abuse for the first time when they were going through menopause. Why? Because the brain catches fire. The basal ganglia, no, it's the basal something. I forgot the name of it, but the amygdala and that area, basal forebrain, they kind of light up. And, they have ancient emotions stored in there.
Man,
and you can't keep it down because the frontal lobes, it's kind of like what's happening with people who had all those, something uncouples up here. I mean, my housekeeper went to mail a package at the post office yesterday, and a woman behind her said, "You're too fat for those leggings." Who does that? Right? I mean, a perfect stranger. That's probably someone who's got something going on. We know that the psychiatric illness it's worse than it's ever been. But let's say in a normal, whatever that is, person, you begin to go through, it's a developmental phase. It's like the seasonal affective disorder of your life, and it's the same, by the way, PMS, SAD, perimenopause, they're all the same. Okay.
Got it. Can you explain to the audiences why does menopause symptoms occur? Not just the emotional stuff you're remembering is firing, but what is physically changed or altered?
What's happening
during menopause
is that your progesterone levels are going down. Progesterone is a calming warming hormone. It's why pregnant women glow and they're calm and they're lovely. But in perimenopause, you start to skip ovulations. The calming, warming progesterone goes way down, and then you're just on estrogen. Estrogen, in the face of inflammatory, in the face of the stress hormones, cortisol and norepinephrine, becomes another stress hormone. It becomes what's called catechol estrogen. So it literally makes your estrogen into another stress hormone.
Incredible. Thank you for explaining it that way.
Yes.
All right. Now, when can a person expect, in general, most women to experience menopausal symptoms?
The same age as your mother.
Wow, good answer. All right. What about those that don't know their mother or were adopted?
52.
52.
Okay, but the symptoms can start.
52.
52, by the way, in astrology is the Chiron return, and it feels like a death. It always feels like a death. Your old life is going. And if you try, let me just give you this. You try to hold on to what's not working, a job, a marriage, whatever, you're going to suffer and you're going to get chronic degenerative disease. And by the way, depression is an independent risk factor for osteoporosis. Think about that.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Will having a hysterectomy cause menopause?
Absolutely. And even if you have the ovaries left, you have decreased the blood supply to the ovaries by removing the blood vessels that go up beside the uterus and off to the ovaries. And when you clamp those, the broad ligament there, then what happens is the ovary loses some blood supply. Now they can come back, so you can get hot flashes for all. Same thing can happen, by the way, after a tubal ligation, because you're interrupting the blood supply. So yes, and a complete hysterectomy, here you are. You go in, you come out, you're in instant menopause. It is not physiologic, and it can make women nuts.
Very true. All right. Yeah. How can I prevent hot flashes?
There's a couple ways to do it. Believe it or not.
You might even have a product.
I do have a product, and most people want a product, but I can tell you how to do it without the product, and that is you ground yourself on the earth. You know that when you stand on the sand or on the ground or you use grounding sheets, there's a 20% reduction in cellular inflammation within 20 minutes. So 2 episodes of meditation, 20 minutes twice a day. This is the old Herb Benson thing from one of the integrative guys from way back. That decreases hot flashes by 90%. Or you can use my Amata Life Praeria Mirifica product made from an herb from Thailand. So you don't need a prescription for this. And this generally works, believe it or not, within 4 days. People sleep better, the moisture's back, all of that stuff. So this is a phytoestrogen. Well, let's just talk about that. Phyto means plant estrogen. These land on the beta estrogen receptor, not the alpha. Now, I spent a lot of time teaching women about bioidentical hormones. That's the hormone exactly like what your body makes. They take wild Mexican yams and soybeans and process them so they're exactly like your own hormones. Now, in standard hormone replacement therapy, they don't do that because God's creations cannot be patented. So they have to tweak them, which means they're not the same. So one of the worst is Provera, medroxyprogesterone acetate. That makes women really cranky. And it's what they're putting in people, those inserts for birth control. And as my old buddy, Joel Hargrove from the Menopause Center at Vanderbilt, the late Joel Hargrove, he'd say, the reason it works for birth control is it makes them so ornery no one wants to come near them. And then he also says Premarin, that's pregnant mare's urine, Premarin.
Horse urine.
Yeah, that's right, horse urine. Premarin is a natural hormone if your native food is hay.
I used to tell patients all the time, like, so when I would just read the word Premarin on their intake form, I'd go, so how long have you been taking horse urine? And they'd go like this, I'm not taking horse urine. And I'd go,
you are.
Yes, you are. Premarin, break it down into Latin. You're going to learn what it means. And then they'd look it up on their phones or on their computer, and they'd look at me and go like this, oh my God, and mine is yellow.
Of course. And if you put it in water, You just put the pill in water and heat it up a little bit and smell it. Oh yeah. They've
How
never
many
been
people are
able.
deficient in horse urine, Christiane?
That's right. But here's the thing though, it's marketing. It was the first oral estrogen available with Wyeth Ahurst way back. Okay. And then we had this guy who wrote a book called Feminine Forever. And this guy was a gynecologist whose wife went through menopause. So she started to talk back to him. I believe that I heard this story. You can look it up yourself. But I remember I'm a young med student and I'm in Plainfield, Vermont, and I see the book Feminine Forever. And he lays it out. You're going to turn into a hag. You're going to dry up. It's, so here, what is the thing every woman needs? Premarin. And that's what happened. Then everyone started to get uterine. So then they had to add the thing to slough off the waxy buildup. It's like wax on, wax off. And so they added medroxyprogesterone acetate for 6 days a month. Now they have them together. It's called Prempro. So if you're going to take a hormone, make sure that it's bioidentical. And they have worked around this for normal pharmacies by patenting the glue. They've patented the application. So there are these little patches that you can get.
Got it. All right. You heard it here first. Also, I just want you to know progestin and estrogens, estradiols that they often give to menopausal women and as used as a contraceptive. I just want y'all to know when you combine those two and give those to women, it is absolutely proven since 1995. I have research studies that your increased risk of developing breast cancer skyrockets on estradiol alone and adding progestin, which is in your oral contraceptives for most of these drugs right now.
Yes, and by the way, they have the ability to make a safe birth control pill using naturally occurring hormones, but there's nothing to be gained.
Amen.
There's nothing to be gained. Yeah, financially.
Okay, I'm going to drive this home for everybody watching here. If you've had a hysterectomy, particularly a complete or full hysterectomy, you are in menopause. It's immediate. Like immediate, you are now in menopause. Okay,
it's immediate. And yes.
So for any of you out there wondering, does this conversation even affect me? Yes, it is you. You are in menopause permanently. All right. So everything we're about to ask, just put yourself in it. If you're naturally moving through menopause without having those organs removed, your uterus and your ovaries, just know you transitioning through menopause, this topic is for you and these questions are for you. Every one of you have had your ovaries removed. This also applies to you.
Yeah, then they're in menopause.
You're in menopause. All right, so here we go. Next question.
Yeah.
If in menopause, does menopause impact bone density and osteoporosis outcomes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. That's true. Amen.
Yeah, it's also true if you remove the ovaries, it increases your risk of congestive heart failure.
That was my next question. Does menopause increase risk of heart disease? Look at you.
Absolutely. Yes.
It is proven. And if you go on any medical websites, if they actually put that question on there, does menopause increase risk of heart disease? The actual answer is 3 letters with a period. Yes. If you look up, does menopause cause bone loss? The answer is yes. Okay, good. So there's nothing really to argue about. All right, now how about this? Are there any sexual problems after menopause?
Absolutely. Okay, there's 2. 1, the woman may no longer want to have the kind of sex that she's had before. So you need to become, a lot of women think, oh, I got to discard the old partner. No, you become a new partner, unless you're married to a narcissist, in which case you better leave now. And the other is that without estrogen, the cornified layer of the vaginal mucosa goes away. And so you're down to a very thinned area it's irritated and it hurts. And so I have a solution for that. This is my Praeria mirifica vaginal moisturizer. And I got to tell you, this is like my favorite product ever because it uses Praeria mirifica. It works as well as 17 beta estradiol, which, by the way, a tube of that stuff now costs $350.
What does your product cost?
I can't remember, but not that. I mean,
it's not $350. All right.
Well, no, it's not. And this stuff, okay, I have a friend and she goes, ooh, that made my husband into my boyfriend. I mean, she said to me, if you ever go out of business, You got to tell me so that I can buy 3 cases for the rest of my life.
That's
And this is amatalife.com, by the way, AMATA life, LIFE.com. But this stuff is great. It will restore vaginal moisture in about a week. And then this is cool. You don't have to use it very much. Just a little dab will take care of it, after that.
Do you just put it on topically, or do you put it in vaginally?
You put it in vaginally. Yep.
Got it. I've also heard and read many studies about olive oil and coconut oil being used to try to restore some of this lubricant you lose in menopause. I'm not sure you've ever seen that effective or not.
That certainly helps with lubrication, but if the mucosa is all thinned and kind of raw, it generally won't restore it. See, what you need to do, that cornified layer, by the way, in your eyes and also in your vagina, is clearly made with estrogen. It's literally, you can see it under the microscope. It's layers of cells that are very resilient. You remember, who was that woman? Betty White.
Yes.
You say, about the vagina. She says, people call you. She goes, come on, that thing takes a beating.
Yeah, she was awesome, man. I love Betty White. She was.
Yes, right.
Oh my goodness. Tell it as it is, young lady. She was awesome.
I know.
Tell us exactly the truth. That's great. All right. So that's that question. All right. So now let's keep on going. Thank you for showing that you have that product and educating on that. But I do want to say something here that you've already mentioned. Talking about the eyelids, you have what are called lacrimal glands. They produce your tears, they produce your oils, and estrogen is required to produce and release tears and oils in your eyes to keep your eyes from being dry and feeling gritty, and then your vagina from drying up. You're producing this mucus, and estrogen is designed to create the oils in your skin, in your eyelids, in your mouth, in your nose, in your vagina to keep things lubricated. And this is why so many women, I've already looked this up because of my own issues my beautiful wife Jane has after she had a full hysterectomy, which was not planned. She was told, we might want to talk about this. She was told, you need to have your uterus removed. You're not having any more children anyway. We need to take that out. No problems with your ovaries. And then she wakes up off of anesthesia from having just her uterus removed to find out they also went ahead and took out her ovaries while they were in there. I cannot stand this. Do not allow your doctors to do this to you.
Well, I will tell you why they do that, because I was one of the pioneers in leave those alone. It's because they have been trained at tertiary care centers and they see women come in with ovarian. So they think that they're doing the right thing by preventing ovarian cancer, which people don't do well with in general. Mm-hmm. So that's why they do it. You don't need these anyway if you're over 35. It's part of the profession. It sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. That all sucks.
Yep.
All right. So now let's go to the next one. What can I do if I have trouble sleeping? Because 50% of all women between the ages 40 and 59, regardless if they're in menopause or not, will start having sleep issues, and it is exacerbated by menopause. So what can I do if I have trouble sleeping?
Well, this stuff works great for that. I mean, it does, the Praeria mirifica plus, because there are estrogen receptors throughout the brain. So remember, if you got stress hormones going on and low estrogen or high estrogen that's going down the pathway of another stress hormone, it makes it worse. But there's a couple other things I'd recommend. Get a thing called a Chillo. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. I love this thing. You put water in it, and then it's always chilly because you're always looking for that cool spot on your pillow. The other thing is make sure that there's no EMF in your bedroom, and you want to make sure there are no lights on. Don't watch TV within 30 minutes of going to bed. You've got to have a kind of a go to sleep routine. A warm bath will help a lot with Epsom salt in it. Magnesium helps a great deal. You can do magnesium lotion or oil. And remember, though, you've got to pay attention to the issues that are coming up with you. And it's going to be, and I hate to tell you this, but it's going to be the last thing that you want to know. It's your boss, it's a child, it's your husband. It's, it's a shame to tell you this, but the key to thriving in the second half of life is to understand this is a major portal toward becoming a wise woman, where in the shamanic cultures, you retain your wise blood, which is loaded with stem cells. So you get to keep them.
No, very cool.
Yep.
All right. So now that's a great answer there. Thank you for sharing that product and information about sleep, because that's a big deal. All right. We already talked a little bit about this, but some warnings, precautions, education about hormone replacement therapy. Can it help treat menopausal symptoms, and anything you feel they need to know?
It absolutely can. And so it's so interesting to me. I was on a whale watch in Cape Cod Bay in 2002, and I got a call from the Wall Street Journal in 1994 when my book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, came out. They had just started the famous Women's Health Initiative. Here's what they were doing. They had all these women, like hundreds. They needed to prove that being on Premarin and Provera, Prempro, decreased or increased HDL, because heart disease is the #1 killer of women. Okay. So they thought, all right, let's make sure everyone goes on hormone replacement therapy. At that time, by the way, doctors were kicking women out of their practices if they wouldn't take hormone replacement therapy. I said in my book, they're using the wrong hormone at the wrong dose. It's not individualized. They will never find out what they want to find out. Okay, fast forward 2002, whale watch. They call me and they suddenly stop the Women's Health Initiative. All the women are panicked. They're completely panicked. They go off the stuff cold turkey. Then everyone scrambles because, they're being paid by big pharma. So it's, oh my God, what are we going to do? And so for the next 20 years, 10, I don't know what it is. It was way back there. It's 2025. They're trying to show, now they do this thing. The dose should be individualized. Really? You didn't say that before. And you should use it for the least time possible. But there's a golden window. If you start hormone replacement within 10 years of that last period, there will be many benefits. Now, I will tell you what I believe, and that is women on a nice low dose of bioidentical estrogen with progesterone, maybe some testosterone, they can stay on it their whole life. But for those of us who don't want to go to doctors and do big pharma in any way, shape, and by the way, I was a big fan of the formulary pharmacies because they would make individual things for my patients. You could use it as a skin cream. You could use it as a pill. You could use the troches under your tongue. But that's why I did this, so that women would have a choice that wasn't a pharmaceutical, and it works well for almost everybody. If it doesn't work, there are some women who need the bioidenticals. So there's no problem with that.
I love it. I would like to read something directly off of WebMD. Is that okay?
Oh, yes. Old WebMD. What do they say?
Ready? All right,
they have a new drug, by the way. Yeah.
I just want to read to you a quote off of WebMD because I think those watching should be very interested in this. All right. So to the question, which I posed to you, can hormone therapy help treat menopausal symptoms? There's an answer to a similar question on WebMD, and I'd like to quote it to you.
Good.
A professional will perform an individual risk assessment and counsel you on how to reduce the risk. Listen, everybody, of blood clots, heart attack, stroke, breast and gallbladder disease, which can be associated with hormone therapy.
That's called covering your ass. Okay.
And then it says you should not take hormone therapy if you think you are pregnant, if you have undiagnosed vaginal bleeding, if you've had breast or uterine, if you've had a stroke or heart attack, if you've had blood clots, if you have liver disease or heart disease. They tell you you should not take it.
Well, because they're giving Premarin and Provera. So exactly you see, if you're on the stuff that's not native to your body, we know that from birth control pills. There are young women having strokes on birth control pills. And when they first came out with birth control pills, this Innovid stuff, it was so high in estrogen, young women were stroking out. And now, by the way, I have to say this about birth control pills because they're in the same ballpark. And a lot of women are told, by the way, stay on your birth control just when you're going through perimenopause. So what birth control pills do is they put duct tape over the indicator lights of your body so you can't see what's going on, so that you are cycling not with the moon, but with big pharma. And what birth control pills do is they decrease sex hormone binding globulin and decrease testosterone levels. So a lot of women on birth control pills have no more sex drive, and there's something else. They lose their ability to smell the right man. They literally, we know that people choose their mates partly based on the smell, and it has to do with the right DNA for having a child that doesn't have a tail. And so this, so I would not recommend being on birth control pills when you are dating, because it will mess you up. And frankly, if you think about what's going on now with all this infertility and so on, there's some women that I love this part. They give you birth control pills too. You'll love this. Regulate your period. They're not regulating anything. They're creating a chemical period. They're not regulating a thing. What does regulate it is things like acupuncture, homeopathy, castor oil packs, standing on the ground, cleaning up your diet, of course. Those things all help. Now, and because I have you here, and if you have any women in your life, it is time, everybody. This stupid my body, my choice, which I used to buy, by the way, it doesn't seem to apply to anything except the ability to have an abortion. And they now have a law in California. You can abort your baby after it's already born. This is just
That's called murder, people.
Yeah, it's called murder. That's right.
And yes, that is true.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
So be very careful of hormones, because they have effects. And I'm talking about the synthetic ones. The bioidenticals, if you got to mess with it a little bit. But if you have someone who's really good at it, then, you can dab a little bit on your arm and you'll be okay.
I love it. All right. So another thing I wanted to ask, why does forgetfulness occur during menopause and after menopause?
It is such a great question. All right. What it is you are going inside, but you're also moving your attention to the right hemisphere. Words and all that live in the left hemisphere. So what you're doing is you're going inside to deal with things that are really important to your soul. And so you forget proper names. Now, what people do, and don't do this, but what they do is, I'm having a senior moment. Don't do that, because your brain, your whole life, the hippocampus creates more new cells. So when you learn something new, then you create new cells. Yeah, you might forget a proper name, but you remember all kinds of other things because your brain is rewiring. So resist the urge to say senior moment or cottonhead or whatever. And what you do, I want you to get calm. Just get calm. I'll give you an example. I'm on a plane going to England. I see the end of the movie Love Actually, or maybe it was the beginning. Love is actually all around, right? And so I'm thinking, all right, who's that actor that I loved in that movie? Can't remember his name. I can't remember his name, one of my favorites. So I say to myself, I'm going to insert mindfulness. When I remember his name, it's Colin Firth, by the way, I am never going to forget it. So that's how I do it, that's who it is. Now, we know that when you do this mindfulness stuff, Mario Martinez is doing amazing work on what he calls centenarian consciousness, which, by the way, I have to show you this. That's really what this book is about. Goddesses Never Age. This is, you should read this so you're not afraid. Okay, don't be afraid. And mindfulness will actually increase telomere length. And all it is, and that Ellen Langer's work, the mother of mindfulness from Harvard, has done experiment after experiment. How you think about something changes you physiologically. So it's so you just don't do this thing. By the way, we just know now, and I'll bet you've been on to this, Brian, that for the last 25, 30 years, we've told everyone lies about Alzheimer's. It's not anything of what they thought. It's just type 3 diabetes. It's the same old, too much insulin, too much crappy food. Oh, but it's also what's too painful to remember, we somehow choose to forget. That happens. Yeah.
I used to tell people, I actually did it last week in London. I said, I was sitting at a table with a group of people and somebody brought up Alzheimer's. And I said, do you have Alzheimer's? And she's like, yes. And I said, no, you don't. She's like, yes, I do. I said, no, you don't.
No.
You know, Alzheimer's is the last name of a dude
right
who defined those symptoms, a collection of symptoms. We're going to call this Alzheimer's. And I said, so let me ask you again, when you say I have Alzheimer's, or do you mean he's inside of you, like walking around, making you forget stuff? I mean, you actually cannot have Alzheimer's. It's a name of a person who described the problem. So what do you have? And it was dementia, brain fog, inability to recall information. I got it. Okay. Can't recognize names or faces. I got it. Those are just symptoms. I got it.
By the way, the very famous nun study that was done in Mankato, Minnesota years ago, it's like a longitudinal study. And when women entered the convent at, like they used to do at 18 and stuff, they would have to write a piece. And then it's something about their biography or why they wanted to become a nun and whatever. And then later they all donated their brains to section the brains. Well, what they found is there was no difference in the brains of those who had dementia and those who didn't. And you know what it was based on? The people who didn't have dementia. Okay. They had what's called high idea density. Like early on, they were bright and they could connect the dots of things like you do. I mean, your brain's just going to get bigger and bigger the older you get. And so this idea density prevents dementia. You got to stay focused, not on the past. When Mario studied the 700 healthy centenarians, he said they're all the same. They're all the same, 7 continents. They live in subcultures of wellness. They're future oriented. When did you last see a doctor? I don't know. They're all dead. My doctors are dead. Can I interview you tomorrow? No, that's my tango lesson. I love your garden. Well, wait till you see it in 3 years. They're like that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, don't you think, for you and I, especially with what we've been through in the last 5 years, okay, the gift of COVID is that I met you and I learned about snake venom and we've had a good time. And, we met Clay Clark and all the loonies of the Patriot movement. It's the best thing ever. So I like have a whole new group. If we hadn't had COVID, I'd still be like with all the Ivy League people up here in Maine, and I wouldn't know about the World Economic Forum taking over the coast of Maine, or I'd be wondering about things. But now I know.
Yep, it is awesome, man. My entire family circle has just exponentially grown in a way I never expected.
Right?
Thank God for COVID and all you people lying to the whole world about them being sick and afraid, and lock yourselves up at home and don't work anymore and take our stipends. You'll love the government paying you for stuff without you having to work. We're just going to slowly condition you to trust us, and we're better if you just allow us to govern your whole life. Yeah. Thanks for that. I met a whole bunch of cool people ever since. It's great.
That's the truth. It's been wonderful. Yep.
All right. Now I want to dive into something else a little bit. So those are just questions related to menopause in general. However, what I've been shocked by, being married to a woman who was put into surgical menopause because of her ovaries being taken out without consent. She wasn't even awake. I've had to deal with crap long-term as a result of this surgically induced, we're not even going to tell you to remove your ovaries and put you into menopause. There are issues related to menopause long-term in some people, and is induced with permanent long-term side effects and issues in people who've had them surgically remove these organs to induce them into menopause. And I'd kind of like to run through some of these with you so that people are aware this is what you can expect just going through menopause, and then what it is you can correlate, all of you at home watching. Your full hysterectomy is to blame possibly for all the crap I'm about to list. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So if your ovaries are removed or you've gone through menopause, hot flashes we've talked about are in your future. Night sweats are in your future. Vaginal dryness in your future. Mood swings in your future. Disturbed sleep.
But it might not be. Let me just say one thing. If you have really healthy adrenals that make DHEA, which is the mother hormone for all the rest of them, and you have high testosterone, your body will make all those connections. So it doesn't happen with everybody.
That's exactly right. So all of you wondering, why is this happening to me? I thought I've transitioned through all this. I had my hormones taken out. No, these are the published things that are going to be happening to you. And you're learning here that not everybody's going to have this, by the way. Everything I'm about to say is not 100% across the board.
Right.
However, there is one thing in particular I want to make sure all of you watching knows about hysterectomies. My wife, 7 years after having her hysterectomy, which was like 3 years before I ever met her, then we get married, and about a year into our marriage, after knowing her for like 4 years, and it's been 7 years since her hysterectomy, she has had life-altering eye light sensitivity, photophobia, dry eye syndrome, and I'm not joking. She has actually hit walls, flipped a car, all kinds of stuff, because her eyes have to close. They're so irritated and dry, and 70% of you that have had your ovaries removed, it is published, will have chronic, lifelong, possibly, unless you do stuff that Christian Northrup's already developed, and we educate you on dietary-wise. If you don't do any of that stuff, 70% of all people who've had hysterectomies and are now in permanent menopause will have severe eye light sensitivity to light, sunlight. She has to wear sunglasses indoors, outdoors, TVs. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is what has happened, and it is published that 70% of women who have their ovaries removed after a hysterectomy will suffer from dry eyes, eye light sensitivity to light, photophobia. They will have dry mouth, dry nose, dry vagina for the rest of their life. And you know what they call that in most of you women? Oh, no, you now have Sjogren's autoimmune disease.
Oh, my God. Of course.
Okay, so I just want you to know, they're lying to you. They created this inside of you by taking out your ovaries and convincing you got to take those out, and you're going to be just fine. So I just want you to know, hysterectomies create massive problems with women long-term. It just so happens 70% of you will experience this dryness throughout your body, including in your eyes, and you will have to close your eyes when you're out in the sun like my wife does. My wife, you know her, Dr. Northrup, literally drives holding one eye open.
Oh, God.
The whole time she's driving, because she cannot stand the light of the sun coming through the windshield, and any air moving. If it touches her eyes, she has to turn in every car all the vents away from her because it dries out her eyes so bad. And this only started within 7 years of her total hysterectomy she did not sign up for. And 70% of all women within 10 years will have this for the rest of your life, supposedly. So appreciate your products and what you're introducing, because there are things that can help balance it. And for some of you, 30% of you, you'll never have that happen. For many of you who are being told, this is just an aging process, dry eyes, dry mouth, dry vagina. No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
They're lying to you. That's not true. Let's talk about organ prolapse for a whole lot of women post-menopause.
That's an issue. That happens mostly to fair-skinned, red-headed women.
Really?
Who have, yes, their collagen is different.
Oh.
It's literally different.
Well, I'm a redhead. If I transition, will that happen to me?
I don't think so. Because you're not that kind. There's a special kind of redhead. You know, the kind of kid that goes out in the sun and they turn bright red and they got freckles all over. It's a very specific genotype.
I got two kids like that.
They have collagen that's very, very thin. Okay, so the way the collagen goes is this. Redhead, very fair skin, black woman over here. So the darker the skin, the stronger the collagen, which is why they say black don't crack.
That's awesome. I just learned something. This is why I hang out with cool people like you who are in the know. I love it. All right, but let's talk about this organ prolapse. So what are they talking about? What is this term?
Okay, what happens is that the round ligaments that hold the uterus up, they get kind of slack, and the uterus comes down. So and there's degrees, you know, so 1st degree prolapse, 2nd degree, 3rd degree. Sometimes the whole uterus will come out. And so you can work with it with a pessary or a diaphragm, believe it or not.
What's a pessary?
A pessary is a device. There's all kinds of them, but the doctors today don't even know what I'm talking about, of course.
I'm one of them. I don't know what you're talking about.
But it's an art form.
Okay.
But you can look it up, and I had a whole basket of different kinds.
How do you spell it?
Pessary.
Wow, I'm learning all kinds of stuff from you. All right.
Yeah. So you just put that in there, and that'll hold it up. And then
Wow.
you just
Okay.
take it out at night. So there's all kinds of them. There's a Gellhorn and there's a Cube and there's all these different kinds. And they're all made by a company called Milex, Milex. So if you
Very good.
are looking for one of those, and you need a doctor who knows how to fit them. So you put it in, and it's like a diaphragm. You don't even know it's in there. And
Got it.
that will take care of it. Now, for some women, if it's just a mild prolapse, just a little,
Mhm.
then putting in a couple super tampons will hold it up there.
Got it.
The other thing is Pilates will often take care of it. Here's what happens. As we get older and we believe the crap that they tell us, that it's the end of your sex life and it's the end of, in Korea, my book was published in Korean, and menopause in Korea, the word means no longer a woman. Nice, huh? So if you believe that and you start to do the planned decrepitude thing, then you're going to lose touch with the lower unit. Now, there's all kinds of things that I would recommend. One is working with a jade egg. This is an ancient Chinese method where you take an egg, a crystal egg made out of jade, and you put a string through it, and you literally can learn how to do weightlifting with your vaginal muscles. So if you go to jadeegg.com,
Wow.
that's a nice website where you can get one and you can learn the exercises. This is all ancient Chinese practices. What they do in the United States is, they make it biofeedback, and the old Kegel's machine. There's also a thing called a something chair, I'll think of it. EMSELA, EMSELLA chair. These things are amazing. It's a technology that targets the pelvic floor. You just sit there and the thing goes, and like it's kind of amazing. And
Is it electric? Does it shock the muscles or what?
It doesn't shock them, it stimulates them. There's no shock.
Like an E-stim.
And men can use it too. It's a great technology.
Wow, that's
And
very
so that, and it's like doing, 1,000 Kegels in a 30-minute session, but it's just comfortable.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, you can find that online. You'll see the places that have it, the MCELA chair, but I would recommend the jade egg practice. And then also and by the way, this came into my head. My old chief of OBGYN down at Tufts, he said he's never seen a prolapse in a prostitute ever, because those muscles are being used all the time. So it's the use it or lose it thing. And I don't care if you don't have a partner, you are going to be your partner. You got to keep the channel open. And remember, the vagina is a whole series of muscles. The pelvic floor is huge. And the other thing that's cool, the vagina, like the hand, like the ear, like the foot, has reflexology zones. So the opening is the kidney and the heart is the cervix. And with the man, the heart is the tip of the penis. Think about that. So it's a heart to heart connection. It
I
should
love
be.
it. I love
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yep.
And I have to say, all of you that think that just because you went through menopause or had a hysterectomy and you've been put into menopause and you think your libido has to disappear, oh my God, my wife and I have the most awesome, she'll be super
See?
embarrassed to watch this, incredible sex life. It's incredible.
Yeah. And
Incredible.
that's all with everything she's been through. So notice that. That doesn't make you a eunuch, for heaven's sakes.
Exactly
What
right.
is the biggest sex organ in your body? Your brain. Your brain.
Amen.
And you can learn to, I remember I was rewriting, I was doing an update on Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom a while back. And I had a book called ESO, Extended Sexual Orgasm. So I'm online. Have we updated extended sexual orgasm? Oh, I find massive extended orgasm by Steve and Vera Bodansky out in Walnut Creek, California. And those two literally taught people how you turn on the body. And it is absolute biofeedback. But remember, the clitoris alone has 10,000 nerve endings whose sole purpose is pleasure. But the clitoris is just the tip of the volcano, because it has roots in both labia And then there's a perianal sponge and a periurethral sponge. And the G spot, which should be called the sacred spot, that's another, Grafenberg. Hello, Mr. Grafenberg. What were you doing in there? The way you find your G spot, this is interesting, is you get aroused. Then you take 2 fingers and you stick them under your pubic bone, and you will feel right up there at noon. You'll feel a raised spot that's about this big. And that, when it's stimulated, has a nadi, an acupuncture canal right up to the pineal gland.
It travels right along the conception vessel of all you acupuncture nuts. It follows that meridian. That's awesome. I love it. Great job.
Yep.
That's awesome. Great info. This is like the greatest podcast ever, isn't it? People at home. Oh my goodness. You might just want to kick your grandchildren out for this discussion, right? Yeah. Move them out of the room. They might get embarrassed listening to grandma listening to this kind of stuff.
That's so true.
All right, next one. Let's talk about the emotional impact to menopause and hysterectomies. All right, so I'm just going to highlight a few of these just real quickly, and then I want you to kind of just touch on these just as a reality for people. I found it very interesting that tons of people report they have this overwhelming sense of loss after a hysterectomy. And it's not just a loss that they can't bear children anymore, but it's like they've lost a part of their identity as a woman.
Yes.
And this is a really, really significant thing for a lot of people that doesn't leave very easily. And then it impacts a high amount of people for up to 20 years after a hysterectomy and after going into menopause. There's a huge risk for depression and anxiety overall. Can you speak to any of these emotional outcomes?
Well, we know that the uterus, remember I told you that there's the cervix is the heart reflexology point. So you have lost the physical organ, but what I've always said to my patients who had to have hysterectomies for can't ever, the blueprint of that is still in your body. It never goes away. We've heard of phantom limb syndrome, but the blueprint for the uterus is still there. So what you want to do is understand that on some level you haven't lost anything, but what you have to do is bring the biofield, the biophotonic light, back into the central channel and connect with your Earth star, which is a couple feet under your feet, and then the star from up above. These are energetic things, and bring them down and digest that whole area, which is what Dr. Jess Bell and I will be teaching. We want to teach people how to master their biophotonic body so that they can bring all this stuff back in.
That's awesome. And I don't want to bring this up and make you feel sad. This is going to be an experience all of you are going to have. Just be aware that if you're experiencing this sensation like you're not the same person anymore, it's also self-esteem and body image issues come up for a lot of women, even though that's not something you see physically on the outside of you. But once you remove those organs, a lot of women have self-esteem issues and very much judge their self-image.
Well, think about it. We know about epigenetics. And we know the Bible says the sins of the father are, they go on to the children, low on to 7 generations. Sometimes if you look at a family history, you're going to find out, and all the female stuff has been kept hidden until, recently. And now it's my body, my choice. And they put, I'm never having a baby, and it's gotten ridiculous. So an abortion is a sacrament now. But for most of human history, not being able to have a baby or having to have a hysterectomy, it was shameful. The whole pelvis is innervated by the pudendal nerve. Look that up in Latin. It means shame. So shame goes along with this. So it's important to remember God has not finished your script, so give back the pen. And so what you have to do is work with what you've got. And I've seen women completely reinvent themselves. I had one patient, she got herself through menopause with weight training, and then she got the best body she'd ever had.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
I love it. All right. So anything else on the emotional spectrum surrounding menopause you'd like to touch on that I did not touch on? For people who warned about, expect, and then what you can do to help.
Yeah. What I will say is that the first sign generally is irritability. So I remember I was writing Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, and my kids would come in to where I was trying to write and trying to work full time and trying to, do what I was doing. And they would stand there and ask me, when is dinner? And it's like, what? It's just the person who has the breasts is always the one who has to initiate the food. And I would get irritated, but I had not been irritated before. Why? Because I was always trying to do everything and be the best mother possible, and I didn't matter. But now, see, I mattered. And would you, so when I first finished that book, you had to do the acknowledgments, right? I stormed around the house stomping for a while. The only reason this book got written is me. I didn't get any help. I wrote it in spite of all of you. So what happens is if you don't have a place to vent what's coming up for you, that's when you get the family stories of when my mother went through menopause, she threw the turkey out the window when someone complained about the meal. Or my friend Gladys McGarry, who just died at the age of 104, she said in her practice, women would take to the bed for a year or two. Because most women will tell you, if I could just go into a cave, if you could just leave me alone, I just want to write a book. I don't want someone always on my body asking me for food, asking me for sex, I just need to sleep. So you have to actually begin to recreate your life in a way that serves you. Now, I had a fibroid tumor as big as my husband's head. I once got on stage in New York City. I said, I have a fibroid as big as my husband's head. Hello, predictive programming. Yep. And then I got so sick. I was doing acupuncture. I was doing everything. I was probably always eating too much bread. But anyhow, I got so sick of dressing around it because I looked pregnant. And I finally said to myself, for God's sake, it was Thanksgiving and, I didn't have anything that I could wear. And I said, a good pelvic surgeon, why don't you get help like a normal person, right? And so I called up the guy that I sent all my infertility patients to because he always repaired the pelvis. And so I did the Peggy Huddleston thing, which I have in Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, How to Prepare for Surgery, Heal Faster. Peggy's still doing this work. And you tell the anesthesiologist 3 things. When you awaken, they tell you this as you're going into that state under anesthesia because you're very suggestible. Like if you tell someone you'll never smoke again, these are great times to do it. And so one of the things that I asked them to say to me was, and when you awaken, the pattern that created this will have left your body. 2 years later, I was single. So it's the pattern. Yeah, I don't want to blame him, but a fibroid, which 40% of women have, and it's a big reason for unnecessary hysterectomies. All he did was just shell out the fibroid. It's easy to do, and I've done a bunch myself. You don't need a hysterectomy if you have a fibroid. Amen. They just do it. But anyway, a fibroid it's pushing your creative energy. Remember the womb. The second chakra is sex, money, and power, creativity. We create babies there. We create books there. We create everything there. It's shoving your creative energy into a dead end job or relationship. And a lot of times, okay, think of it. For most of human history, till death do us part was 25 years. And I almost made it. I got to 24. But so you saw most women went through menopause when they saw their first grandchild born. So what we have now is this whole new stage of life. And so I see it now. I love that I've lived long enough to watch what happens, where you now see the magazines used to have how to dress if you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and they'd stop there. Now we actually have models older than 50 because this is when you reach mastery. The FSH and LH from your pituitary gland, follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, they go like this when you're having your periods, right? So that you are on alternating current. FSH, LH, there's a spike in testosterone. So that's mostly when you want to have sex or go to a ovulation movie, anything like that. But then after menopause, this is so cool. FSH and LH stay up for the rest of your life. Now, think about it. When a woman is ovulating, it's like suddenly a pheromone does go out. A pheromone goes out and she attracts wolf whistles. She can be wearing yoga clothes and her hair pulled, doesn't matter. She's literally, when she's fertile, she's broadcasting. And the FSH and LH are at this high level. They stay there after menopause. So I say you're maximally receptive to cross-pollination just in that 3-4 days of ovulation. Now you're there the rest of your life. And the great part is you don't give a damn anymore. You just don't give a damn, because what they say is, well, if you're over 50 in this culture, you're invisible. Who cares? You can get so much done. Nobody expects anything.
That's amazing. All right. So one last thing I want to dive into and just highlight as we wrap this up.
Yep.
This interview, which has been incredible. I hope you've learned a ton about menopause, what to expect during menopause, what are some of the challenges you're going to experience after menopause, during menopause, and then after a hysterectomy, which puts you into permanent menopause.
Yep.
I just want to ask you a question before I even hit these highlights.
Okay.
And if you say, Dr. Ardis, that is not true, then I won't even read it. And then we'll just end the interview. All right. So
All right.
is estradiol something they recommend to people after menopause, after hysterectomies? Is this something that's commonly prescribed?
Yes, 17-beta estradiol is one of there's 3 types of estrogen: estrone, 17-beta estradiol, estriol. Estriol is very good for localized stuff, like, vaginal creams and so on. But estradiol, good stuff.
Okay, good. All right. So I want to just read some highlighted points here now that we know this is true, because I've never been prescribed this thing. All right. So just wanted to be sure that this is something a lot of people are going to be confronted with, proposed, offered, suggested, and prescribed. All right.
Okay.
So I went on drugs.com, went to the professional section, and I wanted to see, is there anything I need to make sure the audiences know who are actually on this or are going to be told they're going to need to take this the rest of their life? Just some things, as she just said, is great and miraculous. Dr. Northrup did. I want to let you guys know what they know and do publish that you and many of you will experience. And just know this isn't something random. It's not just you. It's not just a menopausal symptom. No, they know that this hormone replacement, estradiol, these estrogens, they create these very common published side effects. Now, I just want to run through a list of these, okay? Because I found these astounding. Okay, so estradiol by itself is published with a very common side effect. 29% of all people taking it, that's 1 out of every 3, will have continuous breast pain as a result of taking it. I just want y'all to be ready for this. Breast pain in 1/3 of all of you is what is published in human trials. You will have as long as you're on that drug. Up to 10% of you will experience, 1 in 10 on estradiol. Just know this is an option for you, hormone replacement therapy. She just showed you some incredible products she made from plants that they can't patent to make alternatives to this stuff. All right. So up to 10% of everybody, 1 in 10 on this product for the rest of their life being prescribed. You're going to CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid. You're going to get your estradiol patches, estradiol creams, you name it. You will experience, 1 in 10 will have vaginal hemorrhage, vaginal discharge, vaginal discomfort, menopause symptoms. I'm not joking. That's funny. Breakthrough bleeding or spotting, breast swelling, menorrhagia, whatever you want to call it. Endometrial hyperplasia. These are things that they see. For abdominal pain, 16% of all of you will experience abdominal pain at random, not related to food, not related to menopause. You're just going to have it while you're on this product forever long. Then arthralgia, we talked about this earlier. Did you know back pain is 1 in 10 people will have this as a result of the drugs to handle the hormone replacement therapy prescribed? Did you know 10% of all of you will have leg cramps due to estradiol? 1 in 10. So you might just want to be aware that these things are known. Did you know varicose veins, cardiac symptoms like palpitations occur in 1 in 10 people on estradiol? Did you know that 20%? Did you know 20% will have headaches?
Yep. But for breast pain, you need more iodine. The breasts alone need 3 milligrams a day. Okay. It counteracts the effects of excess estrogen. All right. Everyone needs to be on iodine anyway. The ovaries actively bring in iodine. They need it, but the breasts need it too. And so it's not just the thyroid. T3, T4 stand for molecules of iodine. That's what that means. Yep.
Awesome. I love that. You definitely need iodine.
Oh, yeah.
And then also it's on the periodic table of elements. Remember that thing we learned growing up? These are the basic elements that make up all of life and human beings. Yeah. Iodine's on the list. You know what's not on there? They're not on there. They're not on the periodic table of elements. All right.
No, they're not. And when you start to take iodine, though, because we have too much chlorine and fluoride, which is also on the halogen on the periodic table. So when you start to take iodine, what it'll do is it'll push the other stuff off, and you might get a rash, and you'll say, oh, God, I'm allergic to iodine. That's not it. Okay.
You are detoxing. Your skin's your largest detoxing organ in the body. So expect things to change when you're supporting your detoxing immunity, which is great. All right. So 20% of you are published to have headaches. Just know that could be common caused by this. They published it as a very common side effect of estrogen hormone replacement. And then did you know edema in up to 10% of all people anywhere in the body? Edema, swelling of the ankles, feet, toes, hands. My rings don't fit anymore. 1 in 10 will experience this and have it. Psychiatric wise, 10% of all people on estrogen hormone replacement therapy will be diagnosed with depression. And then
now remember, a lot of this, here's the problem with those studies. Almost no one is just on a low dose of 17 beta estradiol. They're also on that Provera, the progesterone acetate, which is not progesterone. It is a total synthetic. I could never get my colleagues to even see the difference. I'd show them the chicken wire, the steroid, stuff, all these methyl group. This is not the same thing, people. They can't get it. They don't know the difference between a bioidentical and a synthetic hormone, unless, and there's a lot more OBs now, thank God. When I started it, there was nobody. Now there are people making a good living off this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I did go into this because I was curious. I was like, wow, this is a big number. I didn't even think of this. So I went and looked at these human trials on estradiol. Did you know that 17% of all people in the human trials just on estradiol experienced acute and reoccurring chronic upper respiratory infections from the drug?
Whoa, that I did not know. Wow.
So how many people are in assisted living homes or taking this stuff for the rest of their life? They're post-menopausal, obviously, and they're on this, and then are constantly being diagnosed with RSV, being told you need RSV or a pneumonia every year because you keep getting reoccurring pneumonias. These are respiratory infection symptoms, and just thought it might be important you guys all know what they are publishing are known side effects of some of these things that are not as good as nature. These are the side effects of synthetic chemicals. They're trying to get close and tweak to be as close to God's created Mother Nature as the plants that Dr. Northrup has in her products. But you can't do that and patent it and put in a prescription pill. Right. So this is the side effects of not using natural substances. And I love nature. That's what Dr. Ardis' platform is all about. Actually, do you know what our mission statement is? We create doubt in big pharma and restore your faith in nature. That is our whole slogan, our whole mission statement. That's what we do. It's how I live. It's what governs my life. All right. So Dr. Christiane Northrup, for those just listening at home and enjoying this topic, I want you to read and spell out the book titles you've shared of the books you've written and the couple products you actually put up on screen. People may not know how to spell that now that they're getting home riding in their cars listening to this awesome.
Well, I know there's that. Oh, I do have to tell you. Okay. This I wrote in 2018. This was predictive.
Read the title. Read it out loud.
Dodging Energy Vampires. This is for those of you who are living with a personality disorder. That's 1 in 5 people. All right. And it's the empath versus the personality disorder. We empaths, we healers think we can heal everything. We can't. Okay. That's Dodging Energy Vampires. Then we have The Wisdom of Menopause, available on Amazon, and you can get it read to you. This one, Goddesses Never Age. I can read this to you. You will like it. And then we have Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, kind of the Bible of all things women's health. Got a whole chapter on the ovaries, whole chapter on the vagina, the pelvic floor, all of that. And then, just for fun, now I figure your audience.
Love it. That's awesome. Yeah. Those are incredible books. All right. Now, what about the couple products? You held up 2 of them. Can you, they're different herbal names and scientific names, probably in Latin. So spell
Pararia mirifica means miracle herb. Pararia mirifica. This is the pure, but we have the plus. So this is if you're already on all kinds of vitamins, you just take this. This is just the herb. But we've got one that's Pararia mirifica plus, which has the cofactors. It's got Atlantic kelp. It's got methylated B vitamins to help you metabolize the phytoestrogens in the liver. Then we have this amazing vaginal moisturizer. It comes in 2 types, the regular and the warming. Don't use the warming until you've built up with the regular. And then we also have skincare because the skin has all these estrogen receptors on it. And so the Praeria mirifica will keep your skin looking good. This is our new ultimate moisturizing facial cream. And all the ingredients are under 3 on the environmental working group because within 26 seconds of putting something on your skin, it's in your bloodstream. So we make sure that there's no bad stuff in here.
I love it. Dr.
Yes.
Christiana Northrup, I love you.
I love you too, Brian. You know, we were just destined to meet each other at that
Yes,
Clay
we
Clark
were.
thing.
Yes, we were. And then you've hung out in my backyard. We've hung out all over the country. We've spent time with comedians and laughed our heads off in the middle of a pandemic, which was ridiculous. We've had some incredible moments, and can't thank you enough for all your work over the last, I don't even know, 30 years, whatever you've been doing.
100 years,
100 years, for millennia. Your spirit's been all around helping women navigate all these weird, tumultuous, men-narrated concepts of health, primarily for the last many centuries. And obviously because they named all your reproductive organs after themselves, all these dudes, right?
They did.
All right, so
but
the men obviously knew everything.
Yeah, with the trans movement, I don't know. I mean,
are you going to be coming out with products for the men that are transitioning to now have a vagina and maybe some artificial uterus thing? Are you going to make products for them too, or do the same products apply, do you think?
Well, we actually have a product for men to protect the prostate. So it's Praeria mirifica for men, and it protects the prostate. So men don't have to get up at night to pee nearly as much. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But the first trans male I was doing a thing on PBS in San Francisco, and the makeup guy was transitioning. This was years ago. And I helped him with his hormones.
That's awesome. I'd love it. I'd love it. All right. So a couple things here. We'll just throw it out there because this has already been an incredibly in-depth review of menopause and all things women hormones. I just want to say, I actually looked up research studies to find out how do you manage a whole bunch of issues psychologically, metabolically in women. One of the things that they have found is many women transitioning through menopause, after menopause, or after a hysterectomy, they will be diagnosed very recently afterwards with a condition called metabolic syndrome, which has really 3 specific symptoms. You have abdominal belly fat that's now accumulating. You have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So I want to speak here because it's very exciting. As I was reviewing this stuff in preparation for my amazing, I'm about to be blown away with a whole bunch of stuff like I was, thejadeegg.com. Come on. How would I have ever known about this stuff? That's incredible. All right. So what I learned as I was reading this in preparation for this was there's 2 things. They have found red clover and black cumin seed oil can reverse the metabolic syndrome, which is amazing.
I love it. I love it.
And red clover, just for my audiences watching this, red clover and black cumin seed oil to address those 3 things: high blood pressure, fat accumulation in your abdomen, and cholesterol levels going up after menopause. I just want you to know these 2 substances are 2 main ingredients in our biodefense product I created at the Dr. Ardis Show. So you can use this topically. You just you can use it topically. I recommend putting it in a capsule and taking it because it's so potent as a natural substance and very bitter and gross. Some people say it tastes like soap, but it's all natural organic plant extracts. These 2 things are in there that address those things. And within 8 weeks, they have published over and over and over, they could take these women out of metabolic syndrome using these 2 herbs. So I just want you to know it's also available to you. You are a rock star, Dr. Christiana Northrup. Where can they follow you outside of going to your website to buy the products? Where do they get your products and your books?
Just go to drnorthrup.com. Everything's there. We link to the products. We, do all that. The blog, I've got a Substack that I like called True North. I'm on X, Substack. What is that thing? Telegram, Facebook, Instagram. I've tiptoed over to Facebook recently. I noticed that it's still enemy territory to some degree.
Well, one of my favorites listed on the 12 information dozen people. That's you. Misinformation dozen. That's you, Dr. Christiana Northrup. I did not make that list. I was so honored that I get to hang out with somebody so nefarious and well known around the world to be disseminating hate and disinformation about natural principles dealing with healing.
Yes.
You're awesome. All right. This is Dr. Ardis. I'm Dr. Ardis. This is Dr. Ardis Show. This is Dr. Christiana Northrup. You know where to find her. You know where her stuff is. Go get her books, all of you that have had a uterus, lost a uterus, had ovaries, lost your ovaries. Y'all need to go read those books. It's going to be amazing. All right. God bless you all. We'll see you next week on the drardisshow.com.